3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to Leadership Sketches, our weekly reality check on creative leadership. Every week, in 10 minutes or less, I want to share ideas and best practices on creativity, leadership, and everything in between. This week, we are going to talk about something that I've been struggling with lately. Actually, I've been struggling with for quite a while, which is chronic procrastination. Chronic procrastination is something that I believe a lot of people are nowadays experiencing. So today I want to talk about a couple of things. Of course, I want to try to understand procrastination a little bit more. What does it mean and why do we procrastinate, or why do we tend to have this issue of procrastination? Trying to look at something that is closely related, which is prioritization. And the third point is 2 hacks that I've been trying to fight this issue of chronic procrastination. So the first point, what is procrastination and when it happens? Although this is not something that I want to give a proper definition, but I see it this way. Procrastination is something that happens when multiple things are fighting for our attention. So if I put myself here at the center, and I think you can relate to this. We all are pulled into different things that we have to do, and the emails, the accounting or money, and all the meetings that we are holding, and distracted by our phones, and so many other things that all conflict. They are pulling our attention. And what happens is that all these different pulls, they are creating this intense confusion into us. And oftentimes we have so many things happening within us that there is this constant pull, and it's really hard, at least it is for me, to reach the point where we can say, this is something that I should focus on, and this has higher priority than other. And maybe this is why I created a workshop on the art of managing time. I was suffering so much that I believe I read almost every single book on time management, and I do have a couple of interesting learnings from what I learned and a couple of hacks that I want to discuss. So what happens is, when we are pulled between all these things, this is when we procrastinate. Not necessarily because we are lazy, but because at one point we are in this push and pull. We are struggling. Let's design it this way. We are struggling on identifying what really matters. And every time we decide, for instance, I'm going to work on this document, and then suddenly the accountant calls you, and look, you have to check this account. And it's very complicated because then it becomes urgent. Everything is becoming urgent and trying to pull our attention in so many different ways. So here are a couple of things that I'm trying to do, and I hope this can help you as well. Number 1 is I try not to work from a to-do list. What does it mean that I don't try to work on a to-do list? I ended up writing miles of to-dos that I have to do, and systematically I ended up doing 1 or 2 tasks on the list, and this frustrated me intensely. So instead, what I tried to do is work from a calendar and not a to-do list. I discussed about this earlier, which means I use something that is called time blocking. So I allocate specific amount of time to specific activities. And instead of to-do list, which sometimes is very useful, what I do instead of the to-do list, I do a project list. And this is something that we also have in our plays. In the Creative Leadership Masterclass, we do have a play dedicated to this, which is called Active Projects. And a project list helps us to understand what kind of project we are currently working on and trying to break them down into several parts so that we can then allocate parts of these projects within our calendar. So we are specifically dedicating, 2 hours to this project, 2 hours to this project. And this tends to be working well for me. And the second part is, and this is a weird hack, but it works, at least it works for me, which is change location. Change location to do different tasks. So what does it mean? Most of the time I work either in a co-working space or actually I work from home nowadays, at least unless I am at a client site. And what happens is I tend to dedicate specific locations of my home or my office space to certain tasks. For instance, I could say you could map it in a way that is, for instance, I don't know, I go into this location to do emails. I go in another location to do keynotes or PowerPoint. Let me see if I can do a phone. I do another location or I take a walk to do phone calls. And of course, if I have to take meetings, of course, I need to be on the computer. But I tend to allocate specific location for specific activities so that I can physically force myself, and this goes very well with the calendar. So I say, okay, now it's time to do the email, and I physically move myself to that location, and that location is set up so that I could do that task specifically. Now I'm lucky I have enough space, but sometimes even this little trick could work even if you have just a single desk. Just if you have a single desk, or if you are like me, you have a standing desk, you could allocate different parts of the desk, right? So you can say, okay, when I have to take a meeting, which I don't need a lot of desk space, here is the location for online meeting. Or when I have to write or some creative work, I can just stand here, or I can move the location if I have to do, or for instance, when I have to do phone calls, I tend to just walk around. These are a couple of tips and tricks that might help you to fight this sense of procrastination and try to avoid it. So I hope you enjoyed this fast sketch. I am Gianluca Cinquepalmi. This is Leadership Sketches. And if you enjoy this video podcast, don't forget to subscribe and comment. Tell me how you are fighting chronic procrastination. And until next sketch, as usual, inspire, challenge, and disrupt.